Good morning, YouTube. This is Southwest 82 again. It has been a while since I've uploaded a video. Show you what's going on. As you can see, something doesn't quite look right with the rocket. That's because the transmission is not in it right now. Well, she's been running good for quite a while. I had just hybridized the turbo together. That is a .36 turbine from a Peugeot diesel, I believe, and I hybridized it with a 50 trim T3 compressor. Things spooled up quite nicely. Unfortunately, I didn't get to use that very long because the transmission decided to take a dump on me. Now, it was not a gear failure as I had originally suspected, but in the differential, the Suzuki engineers decided to go cheap on one thing, and it can be a problem. This is the pinion shaft right here, and they just put a little roll pin in. Now what wound up happening, somehow that sheared and this just backed out partially and wound up knocking a hole in the side of the trans case. Right, putting all my fluid. I had a streak of fluid down the hill all the way into my driveway. It looked like a line marker out of Need for Speed when you're approaching a corner. Anyway, so the project for today is coming over to my collection of parts. This is another GTI engine and transmission. You can't really see it, it's tucked in back there, but that's what's going to go on the rocket now. The other little modification I'm going to do is this motor here is about an 8.5 to 1 high pressure engine. It's great for top end. The only thing is drivability, off boost, it's not that good. You know, you really have to rev the engine up to get it going, even with the smaller turbo. You know, I should be using a T25 or something, but the thing is, with gas prices keep going up, I still want to be able to have torque and throttle response. So today I'll be building a high compression 10 to 1 motor, and using something a little unique. Now, this right here is a standard T25. This particular one came off of a Saab. I've modified that just a little bit to go to a T3, but what I'm going to be using is a little gem that I picked up on eBay a while back and have been dying to use. Some of you might already recognize the wastegate is different. That's because it is. Now this is a VNT 25. This was a little oddball that Garrett made for the Shelby CSX that they did not produce many of. And there's only about 1,100 of these made. So this has been sitting on somebody's shelf forever. Even has the original cast mark on there. This was produced in '89. Never been used. Now my only dilemmas are, it's not a standard T3 flange. The exhaust discharge is a funky size, so I've already made templates and cut some steel, and I'll be having to make a T3 adapter to that and make gaskets out of 22 or 24 gauge and just layer it up. Now, unlike most variables that are either exclusively controlled by vacuum or some kind of solenoid, the VNT 25 is actuated completely by boost and vacuum, so it does not have to have an ECU to control itself, to control the vanes inside. Now, there's two ports on here, a smaller one for the boost and the larger one for vacuum. So what happens is, when this is under vacuum control, it's actually pulling the wastegate down, because the diaphragm is right here in the middle. That is pulling back on this actuator right here, and the vanes are opening. What that's doing is reducing back pressure in the turbine and allowing the turbo to continuously spool without having the tailpipe, potato in the tailpipe, that's what I'm trying to think of. Now, when you hop into boost, what happens is when the throttle plate closes, of course, vacuum goes to 0, so this closes back up. Now the vanes are closed. It's going to start accelerating the exhaust gas onto the turbine wheel. It's going to spool up nearly instantly. Then when boost hits it, it's going to start pushing down once again on this and start opening it up. This is a 12 psi wastegate, which for a 10 to 1 motor is going to be just fine. So it should be nearly instantaneous throttle response, which is what I'm looking for. So we should be having about the same power output. Unfortunately, sorry for the shop is an utter wreck. I've been in between several projects right now. Never got this engine dynoed. We'll never know exactly what it put out. All I know is that according to Megasquirt, looking at the data, I was pulling in about 24 pounds a minute. So who knows what that was, you know, making and power wise, but it ran like a scalded dog. So that's where we're at. It's going to be a long day. One of the big challenges I had with this is it couldn't be standard AN fittings. There were some funky flare fittings. I went over to American Speed Center over in York, and they spent a lot of time getting me hooked up with the different adapters. So you have your oil feed, your water feeds down here, and of course the oil drain. I have to go back and get another water feed. It's the one I got was a little too small. I think it's a 3/4 18 on top. But so this will be a 4 AN. These two will be 6 AN. And I will put them on their own cooling loop independent of the engine oil. I'll probably use a small trans cooler. I've got several sizes. Something like this might work. I've got a small reservoir and a Bosch pump. So, new head gasket. That's a basket full of blown turbos, no surprise. Parts everywhere. This is also the turbo graveyard of sorts. We thought about even putting this on here. This is a TO4Z. I have run this on the Rocket at one point. It didn't spool very well, as you can imagine. So, anyway, that's the project of the day.